Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that completely flips how we usually think about talent. We're tracing the really fascinating cyclical arc of Frank Lampard's career. Now, this isn't just your standard football highlight reel. No, this is a deeply human story. It's about starting out in the shadows, dealing with some intense, heavy doubt, and then relentlessly, almost obsessively, forging a path to absolute mastery.
Okay, let's dive into this. How in the world does a young player who was literally booed by his own supporters and publicly accused of getting his spot purely because of nepotism go on to conquer English football? And not just once on the pitch, but completely rebuild himself to do the exact same thing all over again from the dugout. It's a frankly staggering transformation.
Section 1. The Burden of Nepotism. Let's head back to those early days at West Ham.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy contrast we're looking at. Just imagine it. On one side, you have those rocky beginnings at West Ham. Try to picture being a young pro trying to prove your worth, but your dad is the assistant coach and your uncle is the manager. He was facing constant accusations from the stands, jeers, boos, people saying he was just a product of nepotism. Then, look at the other side. His ultimate destination, Chelsea's all-time top goal scorer with 211 goals. I mean, that's a feat that's almost unimaginable for a midfielder. That massive transformation really kicked off in 2001 with a high-stakes move across London to Chelsea. But, as he's talked about, leaving West Ham didn't instantly just magically cure the doubt, it really just changed the venue. He actually remembers driving home, listening to talk radio, and hearing pundits and fans openly questioning if he was truly worth that heavy £11 million price tag. So he's stepping into this absolute pressure cooker, completely desperate to prove everyone wrong.
Section 2. First in, last out. The secret behind the success.
So how do you actually silence hostile crowds and talk radio hosts? Well, listen to what his later teammate Pablo Zabaleta had to say. Even years later, after winning literally everything there was to win, Lampard was still the first guy to arrive at the training ground and the last one to head home. His genius wasn't just handed to him in some sudden burst of natural flair. No way. It was forged purely through raw, unglamorous, grinded-out hard work.
Now, what's really interesting here is the specific, grueling stuff he'd do in the empty hours. He'd set up cones to practice the physical mechanics of slide tackling without a ball, just over and over. While his dad would call him with news about a starting lineup, he was already out alone in the park sprinting. Even right before a huge FA Cup final, while his teammates went back to the dry dressing room, Lampard stayed out in torrential rain for like 15 extra minutes, just taking repetitive shots from the edge of the box.
And you know what? All of that invisible, lonely repetition completely paid off physically. That relentless conditioning led to a staggering number, 164. That is the number of consecutive Premier League appearances Lampard made. It's an insane, almost unbreakable record of stamina for an outfield player in one of the most demanding leagues on the planet.
Section 3. Heartbreak and Ultimate Glory.
But look, physical stamina is really only half the story, right? The other half is mental resilience. In April 2008, Lampard suffered a truly devastating personal tragedy. His mother, Pat, who he was incredibly close with, passed away suddenly from pneumonia. It was just a crushing blow. Yet remarkably, just days later, carrying this unimaginable emotional weight, he made the choice to step out onto the pitch at Stamford Bridge for the second leg of the Champions League semi-final against Liverpool.
You can only imagine the tension in that stadium. It was palpable. The match pushes into extra time, and then, in the 98th minute, Chelsea wins a penalty. Grieving, carrying the weight of his entire club and his family on his shoulders, Lampard confidently steps up and just drives the ball home. It was this defining, unforgettable moment of unbreakable mental resilience that propelled Chelsea straight to the final.
That moment, and really the years that followed, perfectly embodied true mastery. He wasn't born the perfect player. It was a gradual, intelligent adaptation. He learned to make those late, perfectly timed attacking runs into the box, eventually yielding those 211 goals for Chelsea, 3 Premier League titles, and captaining the team to that elusive 2012 Champions League trophy. He had, without a doubt, officially mastered the game.
Let's move to Section 4, the managerial stumbles, and see how this builds into his next chapter.
Because when Frank Lampard shifted into management, the narrative surprisingly kind of mirrored his early playing days. Looking at this turbulent timeline, we see a path of seriously elevated expectations. He starts at Derby County in 2018 with decent promise. But then, perhaps jumping into the deep end a little too soon, he takes the reins at his beloved Chelsea just a year later. After a solid first season where he navigated a transfer ban, things began to unravel.
He moves to Everton in 2022, gets a dramatic relegation survival, but gets dismissed the following season. Then comes a really difficult interim return to Chelsea in 2023. When we look at the actual data, the struggle is painfully clear. You can see this distinct decline in his win percentages. He drops from a respectable 52.4% in his first Chelsea stint down to 27.3% at Everton, and finally a bruising 9.1% during that brief caretaker role at Stamford Bridge, where he actually lost his first 4 games. Honestly, it looked like his coaching career had completely stalled out.
But here is exactly where that Lampard DNA kicks in. Just like when he was a teenager getting booed at West Ham, he didn't surrender. Actually, scratch that. He didn't even come close to quitting. Instead, he stepped way back from the unforgiving glare of the Premier League spotlight. He took real time to patiently reflect, take stock of his learnings, and he openly admitted to the press that he needed to evolve and improve.
Section 5. A Gradual Mastery. Enter the Coventry City chapter.
This is where his redemption really takes root, and it's a patient, calculated build. Look at the highly methodical approach he took to rebuild Coventry starting in late 2024. No hype, no massive transfer budgets. Step 1, he rigidly improved their defensive structure, making them incredibly tough to break down. Step 2, only after that foundation was locked in did he unleash the attack, fostering real tactical discipline. And Step 3, he started rotating the squad intelligently. He essentially proved he had learned to rely on structural, sustainable growth instead of just quick fixes.
So, the crucial point is this massive statistical turnaround. He literally doubled his effectiveness. He jumped from that painful 27.3% win rate at Everton to a highly commanding 54.9% at Coventry City by 2026. He adapted, he optimized, and man, the results absolutely followed.
And those triumphs? They were undeniable and spectacular. By late 2025 and into 2026, Coventry wasn't just winning games, they were dominating. We're talking leading the championship, delivering massive statements like a 7-1 demolition of QPR, and ultimately securing promotion back to the Premier League in April 2026. After a 25-year absence, it completely cemented his redemption and his return to the top flight.
So how does he view this incredible comeback? Well, during this run, he told the press, "Our job is to stay on it and stay diligent." It's amazing, really. His mindset today as a successful promoted manager is fiercely grounded in that exact same first in, last out diligence he had as a young, doubted player practicing slide tackles in an empty park.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If Frank Lampard's remarkable, cyclical journey from a booed teenager to an all-time great, to a struggling manager, to a mastermind of promotion, teaches us anything, is it that true genius isn't just some magical gift you're born with? Is it, in fact, something you construct, piece by piece, in the empty, rain-soaked hours when absolutely no one else is watching? Take that with you today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.